It's the Hot Stove presented by the Cup of Mets podcast. I'm Ian Bosniak, joined alongside by Matthew DeSantis. Matty, another off season's upon us. Feels like a
Yes,
minute
sir.
since we've spoken last, but how we doing, brother?
Good, man. Good. I feel like a good amount of stuff has changed since we last spoke, on the podcast. You're a Floridian and I'm engaged. So, moves are being made but baseball, I'm ready to jump back into some baseball. Hoping the Mets make some moves soon, you know.
Absolutely. Why you're not entertained with New York football, or?
No, I'm not entertained by that shit. Garbage product.
Yeah, yeah, dude. I was gonna bring up the whole, hey, this guy's engaged. Hey, I'm down in Florida, but you took it right out of my mouth. So
Man,
there we go.
we didn't even script that one, so
Absolutely not. Yeah, and yeah, things are changing all over the place for everybody here. But it's definitely good to be back. And as you mentioned, I don't think that we normally every year we kind of switch up when we start talking hot stove when we do the hot stove, or as you said just before we hopped on when we decide to stove it up, right? But I feel like today's like the perfect day. It was like I'm sitting at
yeah.
work and I'm just getting alert after alert after alert. Things are happening. And first and foremost, I think the biggest news of the day is Frankie Montas. As soon as he was here, he was gone. They have DFA'd him. They, I guess, are going to let him recover from Tommy John on his own. I mean, we're still paying him 17 mil, but man, what a bust that was, huh?
Yeah, no, it was a bad signing from the start. I'm sure if you go into last year's hot stove, I'm sure the episodes maybe even labeled Mets signed Frankie Montas. I'm sure either one of us said that this is a pretty awful move. But yeah, I mean, I'm actually happy though the Mets said get out of here. Like, no need for him wasting a spot, wasting any room in the facility. Just like you're not a part of the future plans. And to be honest, that was probably David Stern's worst move as Mets president of baseball operations. But hopefully he learned from it and he doesn't go out there this winter and try and just throw fucking shit on the wall and hope that it sticks.
Yeah, I could still see him doing that, to be completely
He
honest
will
with
be
you.
doing that. Trust me, the past week I don't have all the names, but he's been going to the thrift shop a few times this week.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like those are all the guys that I don't have the names in front of me either, but I feel like those are a bunch of the guys that are going to end up, pitching in those, every other day maneuvers. They'll come up, they'll be there. I mean, Brandon Waddell's back, Dick Lovelady's back. Those are two names that I know off the top of my
Ugh,
head, but the other guy they just picked up from Baltimore, whoever the hell he is, he'll probably make two appearances, be DFA'd 7 times next year. So, um,
yeah.
you know, little Rico Garcia action 2.0. But, Frankie Montas, I mean, just in a year that was literally riddled outside of Juan Soto and bringing back Alonso, riddled with poor moves by David Stearns.
Mhm.
That one just took the cake. It was literally Jed Lowry 2.0, and of course they both played with the Athletics prior and this and that, and
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm glad he's gone. Still a cap hit, but whatever. We don't have to, utter his name, especially after 2026 when he's off the books officially. In the process, however, though, the Mets had up until tonight, right, to protect
Yeah.
certain players from the Rule 5 draft, and their number 16th. I believe he's the 16th overall prospect on MLB Pipeline. And let me pull up your
You're right.
top 30 prospects. Your top 30 prospects, you had him at
I believe a little higher than that. I'd like to say 13, just off the top of my
uh
head.
no, 16 as well.
Oh, really? Interesting.
All right. So the guru in Matty minor leagues and MLB pipeline right on the money at 16. So Nick Morabito, who's absolutely torn it up during the Arizona Fall League.
Yeah.
Morabito is protected, so he will not go anywhere. Maybe we'll see him in 2026. Maybe not. I mean, Carson Bench is probably going to be that guy that they're going to look to in center field. But, knowing what you do about Morabito, I think it's obviously a great move because he definitely would have been taken.
Oh, 100%. And I wrote something on our Twitter today and I said, I was like, he would 1,000% have gotten taken. Just his skill sets alone, he had 70 grade running. Like his defense is ridiculous, like his stealing, insane. He has good MLB potential, and a team like the A's, the Rockies, the Marlins, even better organizations, I think would have taken the chance on him just because of those tools. So I am very happy that they protected him.
Yeah, and I could have seen if they a scenario where if they didn't protect him, obviously he's younger than the player I'm about to mention, but he could have turned into like a Jake Mangum 2.0, out in the outfield,
Yeah,
getting these timely knocks, stealing bags, playing great defense and stuff
exactly.
that obviously the Mets need at this point in time. So Montas goes, Morabito stays, the Eminem brothers, whatever you want to call them. Yeah, one's gone, one's staying.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, today was the day where players could also uh, either accept or decline the qualifying offer. Only one Met was given a qualifying offer. I believe it was at $22.5 million this offseason. That was Mr. Edwin Diaz, who, since we last spoke, did obviously opt out of his contract. He wasn't like Pete Alonso, where 2 minutes after the season ended, he said he was opting out. But Edwin Diaz has declined the qualifying offer. Go figure. If he does sign elsewhere, the Mets will get probably like around a fourth round, you know, pick. But nonetheless, Diaz declines. Four players did accept, however, two potential Met targets: Shota Imanaga and Brandon Woodruff. So the Cubs and Brewers, respectfully, and then Trent Grisham and Gleyber Torres also
Oh wow.
took the qualifying offers. I find it really funny. I mean, obviously $22.5 million, Lord willing, we'll be able to, sniff a mil or 2 mil, 3 mil in our lifetimes, right? But
Yeah.
$22.5 million, the excellent chunk of change. But I feel like it's almost kind of risky given the uncertainty regarding 2027 with the labor negotiations. You're kind of asking for something, if you have to, let's say if it's a short in 2027 and then you have to sign midway through. I don't know. That was my thought process, especially for a guy like Woodruff, who maybe would have gotten like a 3 year, $60 million
Yeah.
kind of like a Sevy deal, or a Imanaga, or even a Gleyber Torres. Obviously he had a bad second half, but I don't know. I just, we're talking Mets, but bottom line here, Edwin Diaz declines the qualifying offer. And obviously the bullpen is definitely, a cause for concern at this point. I mean, there's a bunch of areas, and I think just looking back on last offseason as well, I think that you could chop up our hot stove episodes, and it was like half we were talking about Juan Soto, and then the rest of the time we were just waiting out the Alonso saga, right? And
Yeah.
um, this year there's a lot more moving pieces, right? We're already hearing that X amount of players are being named to potential trade talks. There's a potential first base hole to fill. There are several, especially after the debacle of the starting pitching. So many stars are needed. The bullpen right now, if the season started today, Fangraphs has AJ Minter, Adbert Alose, Brooks,
Uh,
however the hell you say his name, Brooks Raley, Huascar Brosbon, Austin Warren, Jose Castillo, who was picked back up on waivers. Welcome back, Jose. Dick Lovelady and Brandon Waddell. So obviously the bullpen needs a
oh, that bullpen is stacked, bro. Come on.
yeah. One guy that won't be back though is Ryan Helsley, right? According to Jeff Passan.
Yeah. Good. I
Thank
still
goodness.
can't. I still think that was a fucking terrible trade from the day we made it. And that guy came, he saw the bright lights of Manhattan and he just shit the bed.
Dude. But that's exactly what I'm saying. It's
I-
like how many players just shit the bed last year, and they were all Stearns moves, whatever. But just staying on the bullpen here. Like, I don't know about you. Listen, we put out our top 50 free agent predictions, and I believe you and Rob both said Diaz coming back. I was the
Yeah.
one that said, I think he's gonna go elsewhere. I chose the Cubs. Okay. There are definitely a handful of teams that are interested, and for obvious reasons. You could see maybe the Dodgers somehow getting
Oh
involved.
yeah, I could see it.
You could see even the Yankees potentially getting involved. Like there are so many different teams that you can see getting involved. Um, but I don't know. Stearns has gone on record already at the GM meeting saying that he would love to have him back. Same with Pete Alonso. We'll get into Pete in a moment. Um, but just starting with Diaz, like, dude, I really don't think that he's going to return. I know how important he is to this team, not only on the field but off as well.
Hmm.
Stearns preaches run prevention. That's exactly what you get. I just feel as if he wants, which he has already gone on record saying that he wants a similar deal that he got several years ago, 5 years, $102 million. I to David Stearns just does not give that out to bullpen
Yeah.
pieces.
And that's why I kind of, I, I mean, all the rumblings about them being interested in Devin Williams, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm kind of not surprised about this because they're probably thinking plan Bs.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And that was something that I was going to mention. Devin Williams, who had a terrible first year with the Yankees. He did, kind of return to form in the second half a little bit, but still was not good. He's been named as somebody that the Mets are interested in, along with a couple of other teams. But there was a report earlier today that said that, uh, you know, it wasn't only Devin Williams, it was also like, the idea of tag teaming Devin Williams and Edwin Diaz in the back end of the pen. One thing that I'll say is in 67 games, he may have had a 4.79 ERA, but he had a FIP of 2.68. So,
Mhm.
Yankees defense didn't help him out. Um, but that changeup did not look good at all. And that's his bread and butter right there.
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't know. I personally don't see it, especially if he wants 20 something $1 million. And if you think about some of the bullpen names that are on the market, right? None of them are Edwin Diaz. You're not gonna if you don't sign Edwin Diaz, you can obviously, I mean, you could probably expect Stearns to go out there and get two, big time names, right? And I just say to myself, if you look at Edwin Diaz, let's say $22.5 million, the Mets could probably sign a Robert Suarez, right, who turned down his player option with the Padres. They could probably sign Suarez, and then they could also probably sign either a Devin Williams or a Pete Fairbanks or an Emilio Pagan or something like that, and put them at the back end of the bullpen. And you could probably have it within the same average annual value that you would give
No, no, for sure.
Diaz.
The Mets, I really think David Stearns has to get creative. We haven't won shit with this core. Like you can't say, oh, this core was one couple games away from going to the World Series or whatever, but you can't say that. Like they need to he needs to get creative, and by creative I mean either trade away players that we've had or part ways with ones that we've had, and because we haven't won. So, they have to really like do something different because what are the Mets going to do? Clog up 23, 24 million to Diaz, and then what the hell is Pete going to want? And what
And
have
then you
we
still
won
have
with
further
those
additions.
guys?
And then you still have
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. And
We all love those people. We all love those players. Trust me, as Mets fans, we love Diaz, we love the Trumpets. We love Pete. He's our home run leader. But at this point, I don't know. It's going to be a tough decision. If Boris and Pete are going to be really pushing hard for this 5, 6 year shit, I would not do that. Come on.
no, no.
He
And
has another year, maybe two at first base left until he's playing every game at DH.
yeah, well, with him, with the yippee ki every other day this past season, I don't even want him at first base, if I'm being honest with
Oh
you.
my God. He did more harm than good at first base. So, he completely fucked Senga, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that he did, and I mean, dude, he's a liability, and over at first base, I mean, at one point he looks like Freddie Freeman and Gold Glove first baseman, and the next minute he looks like he's never played the position in his life. So, but
Yeah.
you know what the thing is with Diaz and Alonso is like, yeah, talking about the money, it's going to be a financial commitment with either both, one of them, whatever it is, a big one in that, but I don't think it's just one or the other. You know what I mean? Like they could end up getting both back, but they need to go out and do more. whether it be the back end of the bullpen, whether it be getting another bat, whether it being signing a big time starting pitcher, whether it be trading for a big time starting pitcher, right? And I just think that that's, important to note. I mean, if I'm looking at it right now, I think it's more probable that Pete Alonso returns than Edwin Diaz, if I'm being honest with you. And even I'm reading something right now, Jeff Passan on Edwin Diaz, in quotes, the Mets want him back, but they might not want him as much as other teams or players.
Yeah, you have to think like team like that might turn into a bidding war. I really don't think a bidding war is going to start over Pete Alonso, but even in our predictions, I think the Red Sox will make a legitimate run at him.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely, dude. I think that it's a different offseason than it was last year, especially now Pete doesn't have the qualifying offer attached to him.
Yeah.
I think that there's quite a few AL East teams that you could see interested, whether it be the Red Sox, whether it even be the Yankees. I know, Met fans will hate to see or, even hear us saying that, but like, they have a need over at first base, even though Ben Rice is there. Like they could conceivably do it, especially if they lose Bellinger. You know what I mean? So it's just something that, especially with Alonso, we'll probably have to wait and see for a little bit, but hopefully it doesn't drag on like last year. Um,
Hmm.
but when it just comes to Diaz again, I don't know, man. As much as I would love to see him back, I've always said this, and I think I said it last year too, when I was banging the drum for them to get bullpen help even before the deadline, and banging
Hmm.
the drum for them to get starting pitchers, right? In 2025, when you have starters not named Nolan McLean going 4 or 5 innings, and then your bullpen sucks, what good is an elite closer at the back end of the
Exactly. It
year?
doesn't even matter. You're better off spending those resources on another starting pitcher, at least.
Hmm.
They can't go into next year relying on these young kids. That's not fair.
No, and
You
who
can
said?
rely on McLean. He showed elite, but I think Tong will probably start at AAA.
I think Tong's going to get traded.
Think.
I do. I really do. I really do, man. And I know people hate to say that, but I think that we're getting to the point where, especially after the investment made last year on Juan Soto, uh, and just the leakiness of the starting rotation, you look at the top, 30 prospects, and it's riddled. The next infusion of the McLean, Sproats, and Tongs will be the Jonathan Santucci, the Will Watson, the Jack Wenninger, right? The RJ Gordon. I think that you're going to have to make at least, one of Sproat or Tong expendable, if not both. And obviously, Tong has much greater appeal based on stuff alone, as well as
Mhm.
age. And I don't know, man. Like some of the names that you're hearing, right? Like whether it be Tariq Skubal, even though he's going to be a free agent after the year, or Joe Ryan with the Twins. Like Joe Ryan's under team control, you know? A guy like Mackenzie Gore. I would hate to see Tong in the NL East, but Mackenzie Gore is under control, right? You
Yeah.
got to give to get, especially in this market. Starting pitching does not come cheap, and that's not always talking about the monetary value. We're also talking about players, And at one point, are we going to say, yeah, we can't rely on all these kids anymore. We have to put some real names on the field,
Hmm.
and we got to go out there and win,
No, for sure. For
you
sure.
know?
I'm sure Steve is tired of fucking wasting money every offseason.
Yeah, I will say, I don't know if you saw
God willing, his accountant's probably like, dude, David Stearns has lost you $100 million. Like, it's probably
well,
their yearly meeting.
yeah, well, I mean, did you see the report? Like, I think it was late last week where they released the revenues year over year. And the Mets had the highest year over year return. Uh, I don't know, I'm not a financial guy, so bear with me
Yeah.
if I'm speaking like an idiot right now. But they had the highest percentage of growth when it comes to revenue, and
I thought they took the biggest loss this year.
no, no,
But I read something saying that the Mets have took the biggest loss. Maybe I was wrong.
no. I mean, dude, we went to a game what in fucking late August, and they were literally on their swing downwards, like just looking like absolute dog crap. Granted, it was a bobblehead day, but I feel like every game you were seeing 40 plus thousand fans at the stadium.
No, yeah. Well, yeah.
And then you got to think all the Soto jerseys that were sold, and
Oh, 100%.
you know, I
100%.
so I mean, listen, they got money to spend with, but I agree, the accountant's probably going is probably going
Yeah.
crazy. You know,
Honestly, Steve's probably going crazy because he wants to hold up that trophy already.
100%. And and that's the thing. It's like at what point do we say to ourselves, we have a great farm system year in and year out? Like if there's one thing about David Stearns, like he can pick up the Wenningers in the sixth, seventh, eighth round and turn them into gold, right? He could do all of that.
Exactly.
He's good. He's good like that, right? And he comes from a scouting background. That's what his forte is, right? So if we can
Yeah.
continuously churn out these arms, you may as well deal them, right? Because the other thing too, with a guy like Jonah Tong that you mentioned is he was significantly missing a third pitch last year at the big league level. You can't survive with two pitches unless you're a reliever,
Uh-huh.
right? So that's going to be a transition that he's going to have to take and a leap that he's going to take. He's not like Nolan McLean where he's going out there throwing four A plus grade pitches. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
like he doesn't have it. I even think Sproat has three more capable pitches than Tong does, right?
I mean,
So
trust me, I get it. If you can move, I don't, I would love Scooble. It would be a great 1 year, but dude, I'm so afraid of us dishing those assets and then he goes and marches to the fucking Dodgers or some shit. Because the Dodgers will be looking at Scooble. They'll want to throw a bag at him. They don't just sit out on a name like that.
yeah, I agree. I would go ahead and say, oh, they have 200 plus $1 million committed to Yamamoto and Snell and Otani and this and that. But like, yeah, you can't put anything past them,
I
right? But
trade
the
for Joe Ryan because you get that control.
100%. I agree. The one thing that I will say though about Scooble is, if the Mets have an opportunity, maybe it's a situation like when they traded for Francisco Lindor, they traded for Johan Santana, right? Where they say, hey, I'm really willing to sign a contract extension. Like, let's do this, And I saw a report earlier today where I think it was Jim Bowden, who, former GM of the Nationals, current reporter, he said, the Tigers have to show some respect, which respect is a wild word when you're talking about these types of figures. But, they got to
Yeah,
show Scooble some respect by offering him at least a $350 million contract.
yeah.
And to me, is he the best pitcher in the game? Yes. Is he a generational talent? Yes. But he'll be 29, I believe, at some point later on next year.
Thought he was older than that.
No, no, I think he's 28. I think he's 28. I mean, if you can correct me, but I think he's 28. 28 and change, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. He is 28.
There we go. Ding ding ding. No, but still, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, so when you're looking at like starting pitching, for instance, right? And we actually put up an Instagram post tonight just with some mock trades. It's interesting because it's like you see the guys that maybe are coming back from an injury, like a Pablo Lopez, where you might be giving up less. You see a Freddie Peralta who's out there. You may be giving up a little bit less because he only has 1 year left in 2026, but you're giving up more for guys like Gore and Joe Ryan because they have an extra year of team control. But then Scooble's going to be a free agent, but Scooble is Scooble. So you got to dish it out, right? The Tigers are in a position where they can spend and they can win. And I don't think they're just going to, they're not going to trade away their, two-time, Cy Young award winning pitcher. Um,
No, for sure.
so, there's just so many different things that can happen this year. And I think that's what I'm kind of excited about. And once we get to the nitty and gritty of the offseason, I mean, it's only the 18th of November. One thing about Pete Alonso quickly, I do want to say, and this is what kind of brought it into full focus for me when it was right before we dropped our predictions. And I was saying, I think Alonso's going to the Red Sox or I think he's going to the Yankees. That was my gut instinct. And then heard Scott Boras say that Pete Alonso would be open to DHing. Not maybe not on a full time basis, but he would be open to DHing. And to me, if he's open to DHing, sign him. Sign
Yeah,
him.
I mean, if you're just looking to just blow money, do it, but you know what you're getting.
Yeah, you know what you're getting. I mean, last year he was a more complete hitter than he had been in previous years, where it was home run and then strike out.
Yeah.
He definitely didn't come up big towards the end of the season when we needed him to. But I don't know. I just think that if he's open to DHing, it offers a lot more flexibility within the infield. I know this is a guy that I always bring up, and when you're talking about run prevention, he doesn't really fit the mold. But a guy like Luis Arraez, free agent, I think on MLB trade rumors, they pegged him at getting a 2 year, 24, $26 million contract. That's it. That just shows how devalued batting average is, right? But
Hmm.
he's somebody that can play second base and first base, especially if you trade a guy like Jeff McNeil, who they're talking about. We'll get into in a second. But he could also play first base. You could put him at first, Alonso at DH. You could probably slot a Rise in at the 2 hole, split up Lindor and Soto. That lineup then is so much deeper, right? Um, but again, just so many different ways that, the Mets can go about this offseason. Do you think that there is a way via free agency with the current market that's out there, if they don't sign Pete Alonso, what would be your alternative there?
Would have been Josh Naylor. I personally would have liked Josh Naylor for that price
They
more
should have
than Pete
traded for him
Alonso.
last year.
Yeah.
They
So
should have traded for him last year. 18.5 million bucks.
I know that was such a good deal. Great move by the Mariners. I would have honestly, he's younger. I would have went with that over Pete. But honestly, brother, I have to do more digging in terms of people. Can that Japanese kid play first base, or is he just third?
Murakami.
Yeah, or is he just third?
Well, here's the thing about the Japanese players, right? So you have Muntaka Murakami, who is a third baseman and first baseman. They think he's going to profile more as a first baseman. He was the home run king a couple years ago. He's young. He's only 26 years old. The thing
Mm-hmm.
about him, though, is that he's going to be a defensive liability, but B, he had a abysmal batting average against fastball 94, and that's like almost average
Oh
now,
shit.
right?
Yeah.
So there's an issue there, and then there's also that other guy, Kazumo Akamoto. If I'm botching the names, it's because I don't have them in front of me,
No,
and
I mean,
but he's
no,
another guy that he's going to get a pretty penny as well, but again, you don't really know what you're getting, and I think that that's why it's like even the Japanese pitcher, right, Tatsuya Amai, right, he doesn't want to go and join the Dodgers. He's already said that, and I love that. I love that.
mm-hmm.
The kid's 28 years old. He posted a I think 62 ERA last year, 192. I don't know. I might be flipping up the six and the nines, but uh, unbelievable stuff, right? And they say that he's going to
Yeah,
profile really well in the majors, but I mean, like you just don't know, and I don't want more question marks,
for
and
sure.
I think that's my biggest issue. So, you could go the Murakami route. There were rumblings earlier on where that the Mets might have interest in Cody Bellinger. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, it's literally right now it's the he said she said kind of game, and
yeah,
that's how it's gonna be for a few weeks.
yeah, yeah. Would you consider a Bo Bichette?
Mm, then I think you're tying a lot of freaking money up long term. Uh, it's hard. I think the Mets really they're gonna have to get creative, and I would like for them to trade a McNeil,
Yeah,
trade they maybe even if they can trade Nemo, like they need to get some money off the book so they can do some work some different stuff around because what they have is not working. I think they need to go down a different avenue and see how they can improve the team. And I think they should go from there because the current core is not going to get it done. I can promise you that if somebody will take on that Nimmo contract, we'd probably have to eat at least 25% of that. But who knows, depending on, the trade, maybe we wouldn't get that much back in terms of prospect value, which I would be okay with by just moving the contract itself. That's going to get ugly in 2, 3 years.
Yeah.
Um, but McNeil, I think really realistically should go. Uh, because that's just opening up opportunities. Like, what are you doing with Acuna? What's he doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you
I
want to
think
see Acuna perform, he needs to play.
yeah, yeah. I think the thing with McNeil is like if he didn't have the money tied to him, which I think he's owed like 15 mil this year, and then and then he has a club option next year, which unless he reverts back to the batting title winner, right, that he's
Mhm.
gonna, the club's gonna turn it down, whether it's the Mets or somebody else. But I think if the money wasn't attached to him, Jeff McNeil would be such a great asset to have on your team,
Oh, for
right?
sure. Maybe somebody would ask, take 25, 50% retention on his salary, and then we'll take him, which is
Yeah.
still fine. You're saving money. So
Yeah. Yeah. Listen,
you know,
I think that McNeil, he definitely showed something last year. He was able to get on base at a higher clip again. His batting average still wasn't there, but he hit the ball with a little bit more authority, put the barrel on the ball, came up clutch several times. I just think that right now, I agree. You got to break up the core, and especially some of the guys that are getting paid a lot of money, like a McNeil, like a Nimmo. You got to explore those avenues, right? And we heard that they were talking about potentially trading McNeil several weeks ago, and we were even talking about that at the end of last year. That this offseason they should really push to try to trade him.
yeah.
So I do think that they're going to be suitors, and given that there is a club option for 2027, and it's at that club's discretion. I think there's a chance that the Mets could trade him and not have to pay. I think that they could trade him
Hmm.
and acquire like two low level prospects or something like that. And then one team will fill their void with like a super utility man. Um, Outside of McNeil, though, the report was released earlier, and this was also with the Edwin Diaz stuff. But Jeff Passan said that the Mets not only are actively looking on Jeff McNeil, but they're also open to trading Brandon Nimmo, Kodai Senga, Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos, and Luis Angel Acuna. I find it interesting that Ronnie Mauricio isn't in there. Maybe he just missed that. Maybe the Mets are just much higher on Ronnie Mauricio than the other guys. But I think that the big one here is obviously Nimmo. Sanga's a pretty big one as well. And I think given the starting pitching market, and the upside that he showed in the first half of last year, plus back in 2023, I definitely think that there could be a suitor for him. But to me, when you look at Brandon Nimmo, he's under contract through 2030, making $20.5 million a year. And as much as I love Nimmo, and he really turned into a force down the stretch last year. Like don't get me wrong, he may not be getting on base at a 370 clip, like he used to, but last year, I mean, posted a 3 WAR, 25 home runs, a career high, 262 average, 114 weighted runs created plus. I mean, he really did a nice job. Just the defense still isn't incredible. He doesn't have any arm in left field, but that's a bat that will make an impact for some team. And I think if the Mets could move Brandon Nimmo, that would be massive, not only monetarily speaking, but just kind of looking around the diamond, whether it be spending or, promoting players elsewhere.
I totally agree. I think if you're moving Nemo, you're attaching something to that. You're attaching Acuna, and nobody's just taking Nemo and that money on. He got overpaid.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
way too much money, and the years, it's a
What was
lot.
it? What was it? 8 for 162? Yeah. Yeah. 8 years, 162 mil.
I think
Yeah.
so.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, listen, I would love to see Brandon Nimmo spend the rest of his career as a New York Met, but that contract just doesn't play. It doesn't check out. And I think that he could be really useful for another team. Where?
Mhm.
Give me like 2 weeks and I'll get back to you.
Yeah. No, dude, right now, all this is like I said, he said, she said. You don't even know what's going on because it's just whispering. A lot more is going to happen in December when the winter meetings roll around. So all of it, a lot of it's just speculation.
Yeah,
Nobody really knows anything right now.
the one guy on that list that I wouldn't trade is Brett Beatty.
Yeah, I when I saw that, that's just fucking smoke, I think.
Yeah, like I don't know if maybe they got Beatty and Mauricio confused. I don't know.
You never know, man. You never know.
But Brett Beatty really showed me something. I mean, he really looks like. I mean, he hit 18 home runs last year. Went on a tear at the end of the season. Isn't a free agent until 2030. Uh, Accumulated a 2.3 WAR, and then he also added to his repertoire playing second base. He played 57 games over there. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
he's not just clogging up third base. He could also play second. So if you were to move Jeff McNeil first, you could slot Brett Beatty in at second and kind of go from there and see what you want to do. To me, Brett Beatty, the more I watched him last year, the more I started to see it. I know I've said this before, but he's got a swing and a stance and an approach like a Freddie Freeman. Um, he doesn't have as much as a straightforward follow through, but he's always reminded me of Freddie Freeman. But I was actually, have you ever played Batter Up?
No.
It's like an immaculate grid, but they show you a clip of a
Oh,
player
of a swing?
swing, and then you have
I
it's almost
never
like
knew what it was
It's
called.
almost like Wordle. Yeah, I've been playing it at work, and I was watching this guy, and I'm like, who is this? Like, and it was the Batter Up Classic, so it's like retired players, and I'm like, who is this? This is Brett Beatty. And finally, I was just like, I had an idea, and one of my colleagues was like, "I'll give you a hit," and he played for the Orioles. And I looked at him, and I was like, "That's Nick Markakis." He looks exactly like Nick Markakis. And if that's he's just the thing that's with Beatty is he's much taller. So he has much more to obviously he can, reach for certain pitches down in the zone. But if he could get like a little bit more crouched in his stance, I think that it would do wonders for him. Obviously, a lot what he did this year worked, but I think it would just do a lot for him, and he'd be able to kind of spray the ball even further and even more, and kind of add that dynamic to his game. But nonetheless, I definitely would love to see Senga get traded. I think that would be big, and I think that there will be a market for him. Vientos, there's definitely upside. Teams are definitely going to be interested in him. I loved the 2024 version of Mark Vientos. And I said last year, you can't go into 2025 expecting the same. We didn't see the same. Will he rebound? I don't know, but I don't know if the Mets have it within them to wait and see. And then Acuna is just, I don't know. Acuna hasn't really turned out to be anything. He's just like an MVP in the Venezuelan league. That's it. Outside of that, he's kind of just there, you know.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, I mean, listen, that's what we have right now. Other than that, since we last spoke, Soto, Alonso, Silver Sluggers. Soto finished third in the MVP.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of knickknacks. I will end with this, okay? And I want this. I don't know if you've like thought about it, but give me your top five most important to dos this offseason for the Mets. And that could be, hey, we need a starter. We need a trade for a starter. This guy. Second, we need like you can kind of go down like that. You don't need to dive into
All right.
everything, but
Well, all right. Yeah, I won't put it in any particular order, but one, I would say one, they need a veteran starting pitcher and one that's proven to go out and toss more than six innings like a Joe Ryan. They definitely need to do that. Um, they need to bring back either one of Pete or Edwin Diaz, I think. One of, not both. I think that's just stupid. They need to move one of the guys we just spoke about, a Brandon Nimmo, a Jeff McNeil, Kodai Senga. You have to move one of those. Uh, I'd say four. You need to upgrade center field. If that's Benj winning the job if that's Jet Williams, which I highly doubt, but Benj has a higher probability. Um, you can't roll in with just Taylor. Um,
No.
and then I guess, but not least, I mean, if they're comfortable rocking Vientos and Beatty at third base, I'd say try and upgrade third. Um, but I would say, last but not least, get a high leverage reliever if you were to miss out on Edwin Diaz.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to take a much more aggressive approach here. Okay. And I think that's just because, listen, Frankie Lindor, he's going to be 33 next year. Okay. Juan Soto had a generational season last year and we blew it. Okay.
Mm.
Um, I don't give a shit how many draft picks the Mets are going to lose. You're seeing what the Dodgers are doing. I want to be celebrating. Okay. Bottom line. Okay. So, one, top of the order for me, you're trading prospects. Okay. And the only prospects that are off limits for me are Carson Bench and Elian Pena. Outside of that, the only person that I would trade Jet Williams for is Tariq Skubal. Okay, so I want to let that known. But one, you got to trade for a big time starting pitcher, and it's the five that I listed before. Okay, even the Sandy Alcantara I'll throw in there as well, so six. But I'm not trading a boatload for Alcantara. But you got to trade for one of Skubal, Joe Ryan, Pablo Lopez, Freddie Peralta, Mackenzie Gore, or Sandy Alcantara. Even an Edward Cabrera. Okay, something like that. That's one.
Okay.
Two, you're going out there, and this is something that I'm totally against, but now I'm for it because I'm just saying screw it at this point. You're going out there and you're signing one of Dylan Cease, Tatsuya Yamai, Ranger Suarez. Okay. I want Nolan McLean not to have to go into 2026 with a massive weight on his shoulders like he has to be the ace in his first full season. Okay. If you can bring in two top line starters and round out the rotation with McLean, Clay Holmes, and Sean Manaea, considering we're paying him, that would be money right there. Okay.
Paper, yeah.
Three, bring back Pete Alonso.
Okay.
Four, trade Jeff McNeil. That's the bigger one for me right now. Okay. If Nimmo goes, he goes. Hopefully a lot of the money's gone, but McNeil is the biggest one for me because, as I said before, you're able to push Brett Beatty to second full time on paper preliminarily, right? And it frees up the infield a little bit. And last but not least, if you cannot re-sign Edwin Diaz, and I want to preface by saying I do not want to get into a bidding war like we spoke about before. I don't want to get into a bidding war where we wind up paying him $25 million and we go, what the hell just happened? Okay. If you do not re-sign Edwin Diaz, pivot to Robert Suarez and don't stop there and go for a Pete Fairbanks or an Emilio Pagan or a Devin Williams. Okay. To me, those are the most important things right now. There are so many other things like other players that should be traded and more bullpen pieces that are needed. And I also think there's an argument to be made that if a big trade occurs starting pitching wise, I think you could end up losing, and other trades as well. I think that you could end up losing two of Brett Beatty, Vientos, Acuna, and Mauricio, right? That might open up, even if they re-sign Alonso, that might open up the door to go out there and sign a guy like Marcelo Zuna or a guy like Eugenio Suarez and put them at DH. Bulk up that lineup. Do what they should have done last year. Bulk up that lineup. Um,
I
and yeah,
mean,
dude, you know, like, like,
yeah,
like, fucking go for it.
e easier said than done, that's for sure. David Stearns doesn't do that kind of shit, but you know, it's November 18th. hopefully we'll start seeing moves within the next few weeks, like
Yes,
real
sir.
moves.
Yes, sir. And just to give
We can
everyone a
only hope.
yeah, yeah, and just to give everyone a rundown on our hot stove plan. So, for the last 2, 3 years, however long we've been doing this, we've been coming at you weekly. Last year kind of was an eye opener. As I said before, it was Pete Alonso, Pete Alonso, Pete Alonso, Pete Alonso, Juan Soto, Juan Soto, Juan. It was like repetition.
Yeah.
So, what we're going to do this year, we plan on recording every other Monday or Tuesday, depending on schedule. Okay. The exception is, okay, it's November 18th. Let's say next week, middle of the week, the Mets trade for Tariq Skubal. We'll be on here. We'll be on here dropping an episode. But for right now, we're going to be coming at you every other week and look for us on Monday or Tuesday. And
Sir.
that's how we're going to roll, man. I'm excited for this offseason. I think that Steve Cohen getting a taste of nearly a World Series berth, and then last year just having the whole fan base turn on him, I think it's going to open his eyes a little bit. And he's going to tell David, hey, we just ousted the entire coaching staff. Mendoza's going to be next. And after that, it's going to be you. So figure out your shit.
Hopefully, man. Hopefully, us fans deserve a World Series. That's for sure.
Yeah, and as I've said a million times before, like Grandpa Ralph isn't getting any younger. Like Tia's father. Like I don't know if I was the owner of the Mets and my father-in-law was like 95 years old and was a diehard Mets fan. Like I'd want to win a World Series more than anything. Obviously, he's not out there, but like go for it, go for it. So with that being said, for the 2025, 2026, whatever you want to call it, premiere of the hot stove, Maddie, you got anything else for us?
No, man. Hopefully things pick up a little better, but if not, hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving and talk to you at least within the next 2 weeks.
Is that next week?
Yeah,
Holy shit.
that's next week, brother.
Wow. And then it's going to be December. And then it's going to be January. And then in February, pitchers and catchers report. All right. So
Time's moving.
time, time's moving. And with that being said, remember to give us a follow on Instagram, YouTube, and X. We are at Cup of Mets. Subscribe to the podcast, whether it be on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Download the SeatGeek app, punch and code Cup of Mets at first purchase to get $20 off. And last but not least, the new one, be sure to download the Profit X app. Brand new gambling marketplace. We give no gambling advice here. But there's a new user purchase match sign up offer, 20% match up to $100 in bonus cash. Hopefully, I read that right. The code is Cup of Mets. So go ahead, go try to win some money on Profit X. Again, code Cup of Mets, 20% match up to $100 in bonus cash. And with that, episode 1 in the books for Matthew DeSantis. I'm Ian Bosniak. Maddie, enjoy your Chick-fil-A. All right, brother. And looking forward to the off season ahead. All right. Good night,
Yeah.
everybody.
Yes, sir. Have a good night, everyone.